First contact's folly. The Drachnid Confederation's flagship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull gleaming under the distant sun. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge, mandibles clicking in satisfaction as he reviewed the preliminary scans of the third planet. His species had conquered 1,000 worlds, and this one would be no different. Primitive nuclear technology, scattered orbital installations, no unified planetary defense grid, reported his chief science officer, Zura. Her compound eyes flickered across the holographic displays. They've barely managed interplanetary colonization. Vexthor's secondary hearts pulsed with amusement. Another species that would bow before the might of the Confederation. The humans, as they called themselves, had been detected by long-range scouts nearly a cycle ago. Their radio transmissions painted a picture of a fractured species, still fighting among themselves over resources and ideology. "Begin the standard protocol," Vexthor commanded. "Show them our might. Let them understand the futility of resistance." The Confederation fleet materialized around Earth in precise formation. 50 warships, each capable of reducing a continent to ash. Their sudden appearance sent human detection systems into chaos. Military bases worldwide went to high alert, and governments scrambled to respond. In the United Nations Security Council chamber, Secretary General Elena Rodriguez maintained her composure as she addressed the emergency session. "The aliens have made no hostile moves yet, but their positioning suggests military intent. We must present a unified response." General Zhang Wei of the Chinese Space Force leaned forward. "Our analysis suggests their technology far exceeds our own. Conventional weapons would be useless." "Then we don't use conventional weapons," spoke up Dr. Sarah Connor, head of the Global Defense Initiative. Her dark eyes gleamed with determination. "We've been preparing for this possibility. Project Prometheus is ready." Before they could continue, every screen and device on Earth crackled to life with the alien's message. Vexthor's imposing figure appeared, his crystalline exoskeleton and multiple limbs designed to inspire terror. "People of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Drachnid Confederation. Your world now falls under our protection. Surrender your sovereignty, and you will be permitted to serve as a client species. Resist, and we will demonstrate why no civilization has ever successfully defied us." In the Security Council chamber, Elena exchanged glances with her colleagues. The alien's arrogance was palpable and potentially useful. "We request time to consider your generous offer," she transmitted back, her voice carefully modulated to suggest fear and uncertainty. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "You have one planetary rotation to submit your response. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. In orbit, the commander turned to his tactical officer. "Deploy the intimidation probes. Let them see what awaits if they resist." Sleek black spheres descended through Earth's atmosphere, positioning themselves above major cities. They projected devastating holographic displays of planetary bombardment and mass destruction. The message was clear: resistance meant annihilation. But in hardened bunkers deep beneath the Earth's surface, humanity's response was already taking shape. Dr. Connor worked furiously with her international team of scientists, making final adjustments to Project Prometheus. The aliens' arrogance had given them precisely what they needed: time. "They think we're primitive because we don't use their type of technology," she explained to the military leaders gathered around her. "They're looking for energy shields, antimatter weapons, faster than light drives. But we've developed something completely different." General Zhang studied the schematics with growing appreciation. "They won't be expecting this, but can it penetrate their defenses? Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic impacts," Dr. Connor replied. "This operates on principles they've never encountered. And while they've been busy trying to frighten us, our quantum sensors have mapped every weakness in their crystalline hull structure." Elena Rodriguez watched the preparations from her secure bunker. "How long until we're ready?" "Another 12 hours, Connor answered. "We need them to think we're still desperately debating surrender. The more overconfident they become, the better this will work. In orbit, Vex Thor received reports from his surveillance probes with growing satisfaction. The humans were reacting exactly as expected: panic, fear, chaos. Military forces were standing down, governments were in emergency sessions, and the population was in turmoil. "Prepare the occupation forces," he ordered. "When they surrender, we'll begin immediate resource extraction and population control measures." He studied the planet below with his compound eyes. Such a waste of a perfectly good world, letting primitives run it for so long. His chief science officer, Zera, felt a slight unease she couldn't explain. "Commander, don't you find it strange that we've detected no attempts at resistance? No missile launches, no hostile scans, nothing." "They know it would be pointless." Vex Thor dismissed her concerns. "They're behaving exactly like every other primitive species we've conquered. Soon, they'll be just another productive part of the Confederation." But in hidden facilities around the globe, humanity was about to prove just how wrong he was. The countdown to Project Prometheus had begun, and with it, the future of Earth would change forever. The silent response. As Earth's deadline approached, Supreme Commander Vex Thor watched with smug satisfaction as human leaders broadcasted messages of capitulation to their populations. Their voices trembled convincingly as they explained the futility of resistance against such overwhelming force. Perfect, he thought. Exactly as planned. What he couldn't see were the hidden facilities deep beneath the Antarctic ice, where Dr. Sarah Connor stood before a massive quantum computer array. Holographic displays showed the positions of every Drachnid ship in orbit, their crystalline structures mapped down to the molecular level. "The Drachnids think they're monitoring everything we do," she explained to the assembled military leaders. "But they're only looking for what they understand. Their sensors are blind to quantum entanglement signatures." General John Wei nodded approvingly. "And Project Prometheus exploits this weakness." "More than that," Connor smiled. "Every surrender broadcast we've made contains encoded quantum data. We've turned their own surveillance network into our command and control system." In orbit, Vex Thor's flagship prepared for the occupation phase. Massive troop carriers moved into position, ready to begin landing operations. The commander's satisfaction was interrupted by his science officer, Zara. "Commander, I've detected some unusual energy fluctuations from the planet's polar regions," she reported, her compound eyes showing concern. "They don't match any known human technology." "Probably just magnetic field variations," Vex Thor dismissed. "These primitives can barely handle nuclear fission. Focus on the occupation protocols." Below the ice, Dr. Connor activated the final phase of Project Prometheus. Quantum-entangled particles, painstakingly positioned over the past decade, began to resonate in perfect harmony. The network spread invisibly across the globe, undetectable to conventional sensors. Secretary General Rodriguez's voice came through on a secure channel. "Status report. The quantum web is at 80% capacity," Connor replied. "The Drachnids still haven't noticed. Their arrogance is their weakness. They're so convinced of their superiority that they're not even looking for advanced technology." In cities around the world, humans went about their business with apparent resignation. Drachnid observation probes recorded everything, noting with satisfaction how the population seemed to have accepted their fate. Military bases were quiet, weapons systems powered down. But beneath this facade of submission, humanity was anything but defeated. In underground bunkers, quantum-enhanced factories worked at full capacity. The technology they produced wasn't flashy or obvious. No massive energy weapons or force fields. Instead, they created devices that worked on principles the Drachnids had never imagined. Vex Thor received the humans' official surrender with appropriate pomp. Their leaders appeared appropriately humbled on the video feed, pledging loyalty to the Confederation. He noted with approval how quickly they had accepted reality. "Begin landing operations," he commanded. "Standard occupation protocol. Secure their military installations first, then government centers, The first wave of Drachnid troops descended through the atmosphere in crystalline dropships. They were met by human officials who offered no resistance, merely bowing their heads and following instructions. Everything was proceeding exactly according to the Confederation Handbook on Planetary Conquest. In her Antarctic facility, Dr. Connor watched the invasion unfold with fierce concentration. They're deploying exactly as we predicted. Their tactical doctrine hasn't changed in centuries. They've never needed it to. General Zhang studied the holographic display. How much longer? The quantum web needs another 6 hours to reach full saturation, Connor replied. Keep them thinking we're beaten. Let them get comfortable. Across the globe, Drachnid forces established their presence. They set up command centers, began cataloging resources, and implemented their standard population control measures. Their crystalline technology gleamed impressively in Earth's sunlight, a constant reminder of their supposed superiority. But they didn't notice how the quantum web was slowly integrating with their systems. Every piece of Drachnid technology they brought to Earth's surface became another node in humanity's hidden network. Their own arrogance made them blind to the trap they were walking into. Zera brought another report to Commander Vexthor. Sir, I'm detecting more anomalies. The planet's background quantum field isn't behaving according to standard models. Run a diagnostic on your sensors, Vexthor ordered impatiently. This is the smoothest planetary occupation I've ever overseen. Don't create problems where none exist. In the Antarctic base, Dr. Connor allowed herself a small smile as she monitored the quantum web's progress. The Drachnid's own crystalline technology was acting as a perfect conductor for their quantum field manipulations. Every landing ship, every piece of equipment they brought to Earth's surface, only made humanity's hidden weapon stronger. They think they're claiming Earth, she murmured, watching the occupation forces spread across the globe. They don't realize Earth is claiming them. The countdown to humanity's response continued, invisible to their would-be conquerors. The Drachnid Confederation was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who appears to offer no resistance at all. Turning the tables. The quantum web reached full saturation exactly 6 hours after the Drachnid occupation forces landed. In her Antarctic command center, Dr. Sarah Connor watched the final measurements stabilize with fierce satisfaction. Across the globe, Drachnid troops and technology had unwittingly integrated themselves into humanity's trap. All stations report ready, she announced to the assembled leaders. The quantum resonance field is stable. Their crystalline technology is now completely entangled with our network. Secretary General Rodriguez's hologram nodded grimly. Begin the operation. Connor initiated Project Prometheus with a single command. Across the planet, quantum particles synchronized in perfect harmony. The effect was subtle at first, barely noticeable fluctuations in the Drachnid's crystalline technology. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Commander Vexthor was concluding his victory report to the Confederation Council when the first anomalies appeared. His holographic display flickered, crystalline control panels vibrating at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible. Commander, Zyra's voice held real alarm now. The quantum field distortions, they're not random. They're being generated deliberately. Before Vexthor could respond, every piece of Drachnid technology on Earth's surface began to resonate. Their crystalline structures, so perfect and precise, became conduits for frequencies that humans had spent years learning to manipulate. Impossible. Vexthor snarled as his ship's systems began to fail. These primitives can't possibly understand quantum field manipulation at this level. In the Antarctic base, Dr. Connor allowed herself a grim smile. The Drachnids based their entire civilization on crystalline technology because it was perfect, predictable, controllable, superior to our primitive materials. But crystals have one fundamental weakness. They can be shattered by the right frequency. The quantum web pulsed. Across the planet, Drachnid equipment began to fracture. Their supposedly invincible armor cracked, weapons systems failed, and communication networks dissolved into chaos. The crystalline dropships that had landed so confidently now stood useless, their molecular structure compromised by frequencies they were never designed to resist. All occupation forces returned to orbit immediately. Vex-Thor commanded, but it was too late. The quantum resonance was spreading through their fleet, transmitted through their own communication networks. Ship after ship reported critical system failures. Now humanity revealed its second surprise. From hidden bases around the world, squadrons of aircraft emerged. But these weren't the primitive jets the Drachnids had dismissed. These were quantum-enhanced hybrid craft, combining traditional engineering with the very principles humans had learned from studying crystalline technology. They've been playing us from the beginning, Zyra realized, watching human forces systematically neutralize the confused Drachnid ground troops. All those surrender broadcasts, the apparent submission. They were waiting for us to deploy our forces exactly where they wanted them. General Zhang coordinated the counterattack from a mobile command center. Strike teams move in according to plan. Their ground forces are isolated. Their ships can't provide support while fighting the quantum resonance. The Drachnid troops, so confident in their crystalline armor and energy weapons, found themselves facing human soldiers equipped with technology that bypassed their defenses completely. Every attempt to rally was met with precisely targeted quantum pulses that turned their own equipment against them. This is impossible. Vex-Thor raged as his flagship systems continued to degrade. We are the Drachnid Confederation. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We cannot be defeated by primitives. Dr. Connor's voice came through clearly on all Drachnid frequencies. They couldn't shut it out. You assumed that because we didn't use crystalline technology, we didn't understand it. You never considered that we might have chosen a different path deliberately. The quantum web pulsed again, stronger this time. In orbit, Drachnid ships began breaking formation, their crews struggling with failing systems. Some managed to activate emergency protocols, attempting to retreat to hyperspace. Others weren't so fortunate, their crystal-based engines shattering under the resonance. Secretary General Rodriguez transmitted on an open channel. Supreme Commander Vex-Thor, your invasion force is neutralized. Your ground troops are surrounded. Your technology has been compromised. You have two choices, surrender or be destroyed by your own arrogance. In the Antarctic Command Center, military leaders watched as the mighty Drachnid fleet fell into disarray. Their perfectly ordered invasion had transformed into chaos in less than an hour. They never questioned why we gave up so easily, General Zhang observed. They never wondered why we didn't try to resist with conventional weapons. Because they couldn't imagine that we might understand something they didn't, Connor replied, monitoring the quantum field readings. They thought they were so far advanced that we couldn't possibly threaten them. They forgot the most basic principle of warfare: never underestimate your enemy. As the quantum resonance reached its peak, the true scale of humanity's preparation became clear. This wasn't just a defensive measure. It was a complete dismantling of the Drachnids' technological advantage. Everything they had relied on, everything that had made them seemingly invincible, was being turned against them by the very primitives they had come to conquer. The tables had turned, and the galaxy's balance of power was about to change forever. Unity in adversity. The Drachnid Confederation had never faced defeat like this. Their remaining ships hung in orbit, crystalline hulls fractured by quantum resonance, crews struggling with failing systems. But Supreme Commander Vex-Thor wasn't finished. Despite Secretary General Rodriguez's ultimatum, he had one final card to play. Launch the World Breaker protocols, he commanded, mandibles clicking in desperate rage. If we cannot have this world, no one will. Deep within his flagship's core, ancient weapons began to power up. Technology designed to tear planets apart at their molecular level. The Confederation had only used these weapons twice in their history, against civilizations that dared to resist beyond acceptable limits. But humanity was ready for this too. Detecting massive energy buildup in the Drachnid flagship, reported Dr. Connor from the Antarctic base. They're attempting to initiate some kind of doomsday weapon. "Activate Phase 2, General Zhang ordered without hesitation. Across the globe, hidden quantum transmitters adjusted their frequencies. The web that had already compromised the Drachnid's standard technology now shifted to a deeper level of intervention. This was the true genius of Project Prometheus. It wasn't just a weapon, but a complete understanding of crystalline technology at its most fundamental level. For years, human scientists had studied not just how to break Drachnid tech, but how to control it. "Impossible," Zira cried out as she watched the world-breaker protocols slip from their control. "They're not just disrupting our systems, they're accessing them." Through quantum entanglement, human operators began infiltrating the Drachnid's most secure systems. The crystalline computers, designed to be impenetrable to any conventional hacking, found themselves compromised by principles their creators had never imagined. "You still don't understand, do you?" Dr. Connor's voice echoed through every Drachnid ship. "We didn't develop quantum technology to match yours. We developed it specifically to counter yours." The world-breaker protocols faltered, their energy dispersing harmlessly into space. But humanity wasn't done. Using the quantum web, they began extracting every piece of Drachnid technical data, every strategic secret, every piece of intelligence about the Confederation. In the Antarctic Command Center, military leaders from around the world watched as humanity's understanding of galactic politics expanded exponentially. The Drachnid's databases revealed a galaxy far more complex and far more vulnerable than they had imagined. "They're not the only power out there," Secretary General Rodriguez observed, studying the intel feeds. "There are other species who resent Drachnid dominance, potential allies." The Drachnid crew members watched in horror as their most advanced ships began responding to human commands. Quantum entanglement had turned their own technology into an extension of human will. Centuries of Confederation superiority were unraveling in hours. "Your empire is built on fear and arrogance," Rodriguez transmitted to Vexthor. "How many other species have you dismissed as primitive? How many potential allies have you turned into enemies?" In orbit, the Drachnid ship's crystalline hulls began to glow with new frequencies. Human operators, now fully understanding the technology, started reprogramming the very structure of their vessels. What had been weapons of conquest were being transformed into something new. "You could have approached us as equals," General Zhang added. "We could have shared knowledge, traded technology, worked together. Instead, you chose domination. And in doing so, you forced us to surpass you." Vexthor, watching his fleet slip from his control, finally began to understand the magnitude of his failure. The humans hadn't just defeated an invasion force, they had completely reversed the balance of power. His own arrogance had handed them everything they needed to challenge the Confederation itself. Throughout the ships, Drachnid crew members began surrendering. They had seen enough to know that resistance was pointless. The humans controlled their technology more effectively than they did now. Some even showed curiosity, wondering how this primitive species had achieved such mastery. Dr. Connor coordinated with teams worldwide, stabilizing the captured ships and securing their technology. "We're not just taking their weapons," she explained to the leadership. "We're taking their knowledge, their understanding of the galaxy. Everything they thought made them superior is now ours to improve upon." The quantum web continued to expand, connecting human consciousness with crystalline technology in ways the Drachnids had never imagined possible. Ships that had arrived as instruments of conquest were being transformed into humanity's first true starships. "Your choice is simple," Rodriguez informed the defeated commander. "Work with us willingly, help us understand your technology fully, and be part of building something new, or resist, and watch as we deconstruct your empire piece by piece." The day that was supposed to mark humanity's submission to Drachnid rule had instead become the beginning of Earth's emergence as a galactic power. But unlike their would-be conquerors, they intended to use their newfound strength differently. "We'll remember this lesson," General Zhang said, watching human crews begin to board the captured ships. "Power without wisdom, technology without understanding. These are the seeds of defeat. We won't make the same mistakes they did. As the sun set on Earth's first day as a spacefaring civilization, the quantum web pulsed with new possibilities. Humanity had not just survived, they had evolved, turning an attempted conquest into a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. In the end, it was Dr. Connor who provided the solution. The quantum web isn't just a human achievement. It's built on principles we learned from studying Drachnid technology, combined with insights from our own development. Its very existence proves that cooperation is stronger than domination. The Council voted to share the technology, with safeguards. Earth would teach other species to develop their own quantum interfaces, adapted to their unique technologies. Instead of controlling the web, humanity would help coordinate it, creating a truly interconnected galaxy. Vexthor, watching these proceedings from his diplomatic quarters, finally understood the full magnitude of what had happened. "We thought technology made us superior," he admitted to Connor during a private meeting. "We never considered that true advancement might lie in how that technology is used." The quantum web expanded, connecting worlds and species in ways the Confederation never imagined. Trade routes that once required massive crystal ships could now transfer goods instantly through quantum tunneling. Communication barriers between species fell as the web adapted to different forms of consciousness. But Earth faced challenges in its new role. Some human factions, emboldened by their victory, pushed for more aggressive expansion. The temptation to use their advantage for dominance was constant. The price of victory, they were learning, was eternal vigilance against becoming what they had defeated. Perhaps that's why we were the ones to break the Confederation. Rodriguez reflected during the first anniversary of the invasion. "We know what it's like to fight our own worst impulses. Our history is full of empires rising and falling, of power corrupting, of technology outpacing wisdom." The galaxy was transforming. The rigid hierarchies of the Confederation era gave way to fluid networks of cooperation. Species that had been deemed primitive or useless under Drachnid rule revealed incredible innovations once given the chance to develop freely. 1 year after the invasion, Earth hosted the first Galactic Scientific Congress. In the same Antarctic base where Project Prometheus was born, representatives from 100 worlds shared knowledge and technology. The quantum web hummed with new possibilities as different species contributed their unique perspectives. "The Drachnids taught us how powerful crystalline technology could be," Connor told the assembled scientists. "But humanity taught the galaxy something more important, that true strength lies not in perfection, but in adaptation. Not in domination, but in cooperation." As she spoke, the quantum web pulsed with activity. On countless worlds, beings of all forms and philosophies worked together, combining technologies and ideas in ways never before imagined. The galaxy was entering a new age, not one of empire or conquest, but of exploration and discovery. The price of victory had not been cheap. Earth had been forced to grow and change faster than anyone thought possible. But in meeting that challenge, humanity had proven something to the galaxy and to themselves, that the greatest power lies not in the strength to conquer, but in the wisdom to cooperate. And in the depths of space, on worlds yet undiscovered, new civilizations looked up at the stars and saw not the cold crystal ships of conquest, but the warm promise of connection. The age of the Confederation was over. The age of cooperation had begun.